Good morning. My name is Jackie Armstrong-Hominiuk, the MLA for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville and the Parliamentary Secretary for Ukrainian Refugee Settlement, also the Chair of the Advisory Council on Alberta-Ukraine Relations. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today on the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 6. I also acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta who have a deep connection with this land. I'm honoured to be here in Vegreville with Mayor Tim McPhee, members of government, and other distinguished guests. Rajan, Sawhney, Minister of Trade, Immigration and Multiculturalism, Jeremy Nixon, Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services, Alexander Danalenko, the Consul General of Ukraine in Edmonton, Arisia Boychuk, Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Alberta Provincial Council. President. Thank you to the town of Vegreville for hosting us and to everyone who made this trip here on such a bitterly cold morning. I would also like to thank my fellow Albertans who have volunteered or made contributions, no matter the size, to assist Ukraine and its displaced citizens. You are recognized and appreciated. Today is a very solemn day. It marks 1 year since Russia declared war on Ukraine. I can still remember the gut-wrenching feeling I had watching the first attacks unfold on the news. It has been a long, difficult year for the Ukrainian people who have suffered in so many indescribable ways. I'm immensely proud of Alberta and Albertans for stepping up and welcoming the displaced and providing refuge for those fleeing war. Since the war began, tens of thousands of displaced Ukrainians have come to Alberta. With more expected to arrive, Alberta's government is pledging new funding to assist resettlement of Ukrainian newcomers. I am pleased to introduce my colleague, Honourable Rajan Sawhney, Minister of Trade, Immigration and Multiculturalism, who will share some of the good news with us. Minister.
Thank you, MLA Armstrong-Hominiuk, for your kind introduction, and good morning, everyone. I would also like to thank Mayor McPhee and the town of Vegreville for hosting us today. It is wonderful to see so many people here today, including those who have recently arrived in our province. We're so glad to welcome you and offer you protection and a safe place where you can rebuild. Today marks a sad anniversary, as we all know. It's been 1 year since Russia's illegal, unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine. A day that will forever be etched in our memories. Millions of Ukrainians had to drop everything, leaving behind their homes, their possessions, their jobs, schools, and much, much worse, their family and friends. From those first dark days, Alberta's government has been proud to stand with Ukraine, a country with which we have very strong ties. As the crisis enters its second year, our commitment towards Ukraine and its people stands unwavering. We will continue to support Ukrainian newcomers fleeing the war by helping them resettle in our province. Since the conflict began, approximately 21,600 Ukrainians have made a new home in our province. Settlement agencies, immigrant-serving organizations, and groups like the Ukrainian Canadian Congress have done an extraordinary job in supporting newcomers when they arrive. They have helped newcomers with the practical details of enrolling for school and language classes, finding work, arranging childcare, and accessing health services, emergency accommodation, and financial supports. And they have given newcomers a soft place to land as they adjust to a new home, new language, and a new community. But with the number of Ukrainian newcomers expected to increase, the need for services will grow alongside that. That is why Alberta's government is pledging additional support today. As part of Budget 2023, Alberta's government would provide a total of $7 million over 3 years for settlement and language programming. This includes $3 million over the next 2 years and $1 million in 2025-26. This funding would help settlement agencies and immigrant-serving organizations meet an increase in demand for services. It would ensure Ukrainian newcomers have the skills and language supports needed for successful settlement and integration in our province. And it would build upon existing English language learning opportunities and supports for successful employment and economic integration. We would continue to work with settlement agencies and immigrant-serving organizations to identify the kinds of supports that are needed, because whether they are here for the short term or the long term, we want Ukrainian newcomers in Alberta to know that they are welcome and that they are supported. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. It is now my honor to introduce one of the leading voices for Ukrainian people in our province. Please welcome Alexander Danieliko, Consul General of Ukraine in Edmonton, to the podium.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your kind introduction. Ministers, elected officials, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to be here in Vegreville on this such a great announcement. And today is a sad day for all Ukrainians. Today marks 1 year of beginning of this brutal, unjustified, and unprovoked Russian aggression. They thought that they can take us in 3 days. Now 365 days of this terrible war, and this 365 days of our resistance, of our fight, of our bravery and determination to win and to liberate our land. Unfortunately, thousands of people were killed already in Ukraine by Russians. So I would like to ask you to honor their memory in this day with a minute of silence. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, not only our brave defenders died on the battlefields, thousands of Ukrainians are dying every day because of Russians shelling, of Russian bombing our civil cities, peaceful cities, civil infrastructure, killing children, women, and peaceful Ukrainians. Because of that, millions of them had to flee Ukraine in search of safe places. And thousands, 100,000 came here to Canada and to Alberta. And I'm really grateful from my heart, from our government, for Alberta to support Ukrainians, to provide them, because they are stressed. You can imagine what the feeling they have, leaving the country, leaving loved ones, leaving the homes, and go to a place they don't know. And they really need this support. And I'm really grateful for your support, for the support of the community, of all Albertans. It's very important to provide funds and the housing and means to live, but it's also very important that Ukrainians here in Alberta feeling your support here in our hearts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Consul General Danieliko. I'm now pleased to introduce the Honourable Jeremy Nixon, Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services, who will share some good news. Minister Nixon.
Thank you, Jackie, for that introduction, and very honored to be able to be here today for this announcement, to be here in Vegreville, and to work with MLA Jackie Armstrong-Halmanick, as well as my colleague, Minister of Trade, Immigration and Multiculturalism, Rajan Sawhney, in working towards making sure that Alberta is a good place for everyone, but in this case for those who are fleeing Ukraine right now and the devastation that's taking place over there. And thank you to Orissa Boychuk for being here today, and to Consular General Danieliko, and for your powerful words today, and for the inspirational words as well. There is hope, and we're proud to be able to stand alongside you in defending your freedom and Ukraine's right to exist against this unjust war. 1 year ago, marks the beginning of a devastating time for the Ukrainian people. And, you know, it's a somber moment, as we just heard, but I think it's also an opportunity to maybe celebrate's not the right word, but for lack of a better word, the resiliency and the strength of Ukrainians and the inspiration that they give us all as they fight for freedom in their home. And so again, thank you for your leadership, and we're proud to be there to stand alongside Ukraine. From the very beginning, Alberta's government has stood with Ukraine. 1 year later, we will continue our support. Alberta is home to hundreds of thousands of individuals with Ukrainian descent, and it's why its culture, the Ukrainian culture, is seen right across this province and has helped build Alberta. Since this conflict began 1 year ago, Alberta has welcomed more than 22,000 Ukrainian evacuees. That number represents families and individuals leaving behind jobs, homes, and a life that was already established in a place that is now fighting for freedom. As these families move away from their homes in Ukraine, we want to do all that we can to help them to establish a life here in Alberta for however long that it's needed. You know, as I've been door knocking in my own constituency of Calgary-Klein, I don't go one day without bumping into a Ukrainian family that's now living in the constituency of Calgary-Klein, and I know that's true right across the province. And I love to take a few moments with them and just to connect and see how they're doing. And they're all very thankful and appreciative, and say that they're getting supported and loved and seeing that care from Albertans. So to Albertans, thank you for stepping up in support for Ukrainian people that have evacuated and are now living in our communities. You know, my father used to run a homeless shelter, and often he would do a lot of speeches, and people would come to him and ask, how do I help? How do I help? And Dad would say, well, do you got a spare bedroom? Do you got a basement seat? Do you got something? And that's how you can help. And, you know, it's a very difficult thing to invite strangers into your home. And but that's what Albertans have done. And we wouldn't have been able to help support the number of people that have come to Alberta if it wasn't for Albertans opening up their homes and their rooms and inviting strangers who are now no longer strangers into their houses. And so I did want to throw a special thanks to all of the Albertans that have opened up their homes and have been so welcoming for the Ukrainian people in our communities. I think it's important to re-highlight the great work being done by this government as well, with investments into the education system and supports just announced by Minister Sawhney to help Ukrainian newcomers. For Ukrainian individuals and families arriving in Alberta, we want them to know that they will be supported here in Alberta. Meeting basic needs can be extremely difficult when it comes to coming to a new country, and of course we want to help. We are very lucky to have MLA Jackie Armstrong-Hominick, who serves as the Parliamentary Secretary for the Ukrainian refugee settlement. She has been a strong and relentless advocate for Ukrainians arriving in this province, and I'm just so proud to be able to make this announcement with her, alongside her today, and so thankful for her ongoing advocacy. I am pleased to announce that as of today, Ukrainian newcomers will be able to access the same supports through the Alberta Rent Supplement program as all other Albertans. This support for Ukrainian newcomers is made possible with the $16.7 million increase to the program, $6.8 million of which was made available late this fiscal year. And if passed, Budget 2023 would provide a remaining $9.9 million for the rent supplemental program. We know how important it is for these families and individuals to be able to have a roof over their heads, a safe place, especially as they arrive in a new country. We also know how important it is for Ukrainian newcomers to be able to put food on their tables, which is why we are also announcing an extension to the Ukrainian Evacuee Emergency Support and Benefits Program, providing support to eligible applicants until January 2024. If passed, Budget 2023 would provide an additional $3.6 million to extend this program. The supports available through this program mirror supports offered through other Alberta income support programs. We know how important it is to have this financial support available, which is why we are also removing the 6-month maximum duration. Instead, this program will be offered to Ukrainian newcomers as long as they are eligible, as long as they need it. Our government's support for Ukraine and newcomers to Alberta still stands strong, and we are proud to be making this announcement here today. With more than $27 million being announced here today, I'm confident that we will be able to make life better for those coming from Ukraine, to be able to settle here and have a good life here in Alberta for the time that they need it. And I would now like to introduce Arissa Boychuk to provide a few remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Nixon. And thank you, Minister Sawhney, MLA Jackie Armstrong-Homonyuk, Mayor of Vegreville, Tim McPhee, Consul General of Ukraine, Alexander Danileko, and dear guests. Thank you to the government for your steadfast support for our Ukrainian community here in Alberta. Today, the world marks 1 year of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine. This is 365 days of heroic Ukrainian resistance to Russia's genocidal war on Ukraine. The fight is for all of us, for the values we as Albertans and Canadians hold very dear, which is freedom, democracy, human rights, sovereignty. Really, the belief in creating a better world for our children and their children. Almost 8 million Ukrainians have been displaced outside of Ukraine at this past year. More than 22,600 have arrived in Alberta to seek that safety and shelter in this 1 year. 700 are arriving here in Alberta weekly. Many arriving women with children and with their elderly parents. We are very, very grateful for the new announcement today, which will help evacuees settle and prosper in Alberta communities through language supports and settlement services necessary for successful transition into Alberta communities. This is a significant win for Alberta as a province and for Ukrainian newcomers in Alberta. Today's announcement is very much needed and very welcomed. Thank you to everyone involved, to your staff, to the public service in Alberta, and to the members of your government. May the next gathering we celebrate victory, Ukraine's Victory Day together. Дякую. Слава Україні.
Thank you very much, Arissa. I want to thank you, ministers, for the announcement of these supports for Ukrainian newcomers. This is very, very good news. I would also like to extend a special thanks to all of my colleagues who have supported me throughout this, and also the Premier's Task Force, particularly former Premier Ed Stelmach, Carol Skalinsky, Vitaly Metlev, Jen Schmidt-Rempel, and Sally Mansour, and Kevin Royal for all of their support and all of their hard work, dedication, volunteerism, and they give to the community in so many ways, and they continue to give to help Ukraine and the displaced Ukrainian newcomers. Slava Ukraini. And now I will invite questions from the media.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the first person on the line, and just a reminder, one question, one follow-up. First person on the line.
The first caller is Michael King. Please go ahead.
Hi there. First off, for Mr. Nixon, any conversations being had with the federal government in terms of extending the settlement support program? We know there's been concern about this expiring at the end of next month. Are those conversations that you guys are having with the feds?
No, I can't say that I've had that conversation with the feds at this time, but certainly considering the timeliness of it, we probably should be. So thank you. Oh, there we go.
Well, I will substantiate on that question. So I had a meeting with Minister Sean Fraser last November and discussed in detail the importance of extending these supports, we do need our federal counterparts actually to step up, particularly as it relates to housing. So certainly during my trip to Ottawa as well, I re-emphasized that there should be an extension to the program. And I was on the website today. It does indicate that it expires at the end of March of this year. So hopefully we'll see some good news on that front because it is definitely needed.
Follow up on the line?
Yes, for the Consul General, the ability for Ukrainians to access these additional supports, we have these announcements. Does any additional support be needed to make sure that families coming in have the ability to access even something as simple as filling out a form, maybe in a language such as English? Is that something that needs to be ramped up?
Thank you for your question. I think there are some difficulties for Ukrainians coming here, for sure. But most needs of them are covered by the government, by the Ukrainian community and volunteers organizations working very hard, helping Ukrainians coming here. But we hope, and of course we need more and more support because more and more Ukrainians are coming here. And as it was said already, most of them, it's women with the children with no language knowledge, and it's very hard for them to adopt to this life here in Alberta. So this is very important for them to have this support on the first stage when they come to Alberta. And of course, we need support also not only for Ukrainians coming here to Alberta or to Canada or anywhere else, but support for Ukraine because, as you see, the struggle is continuing and Russians are continuing shelling our cities. So we very much needed support here in Alberta and support for Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I'll go to the floor. Is there anyone on the floor that has a question? No? All right. Go to the line then. Next person on the line.
The next question is from Shub Cuppin for Red FM. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my question is for Minister Rajan. Sawhney, and I would like to ask a question in Punjabi.
Okay. Yes.
Rajan ji, ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਅਨਾਉਂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ do it in ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ I'll ask a follow-up question.
Okay, so the question that's being asked is, today's announcement, can I just translate that into Punjabi? So if that's okay with everybody, you heard the announcement today. I'll just repeat it in Punjabi for those who speak that language in this province. So ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ announce ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ $7 million ਦੀ funding ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ immigrant serving organizations ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਤੋਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ evacuees and temporary residents ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ support ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ in language services and settlement services ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੇਰੇ colleague ਨੇ Minister Nixon ਨੇ housing ਵਾਸਤੇ rent supplements ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ support announce ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ So ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅੱਜ announcement ਸੀ it was basically for additional supports for those who are coming to Alberta fleeing Ukraine to make sure that they can settle and integrate properly and safely and are well supported.
Wonderful. Is there a follow-up on the line?
Minister Sahab, yeah. Minister Sahab, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਹਾਲ ਹੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਹੋਏ?
So do you mean with the High Commissioner?
Yeah, Indian Trade Council ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਬੈਠਕ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਕੀ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਲਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ?
Okay. Again, this is a question not really related to today's announcement, but it's related to my meeting with the High Commissioner of India. There has been an Indo-Pacific strategy that was announced by the federal government. So the question is, what were your discussions? So ਸਾਡੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤਾਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨਾਲ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਓਪਰਚੁਨਿਟੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੋਕ ਹੈਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ whether through our immigration program or through some other opportunities. So what I said for everybody is that my discussions with the High Commissioner, and it does relate a little bit to this announcement, is basically talking about that Alberta is not only the land of hope, it's also the land of opportunity. Whether you're fleeing the war from Ukraine, or if you're an Afghan refugee, or from Syria, or somebody who's wanting to immigrate here for the opportunities, Canada, and particularly Alberta, is a place to be.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Is there next person on the line?
There are no more questions online.
One more chance for the floor. Anyone on the floor? Wonderful. Thank you very much for everyone attending, and thank you for all the questions. This concludes our announcement. Thank you very much.